The Windy City is about to overtake the Big Apple. Sounds like a big claim, but wait till you see the next generation of skyscrapers in Chicago. From sleek buildings to brand new neighborhoods, Chicago is pulling all the strings when it comes to a 360-degree revamp. If you have been visiting Chicago just for its deep dish pizza, you will now have another reason to look up in awe. And that's because Chicago's about to delight your architectural taste buds. We will review 6 such groundbreaking projects that will dim all other American cities in comparison, possibly even New York. However, we will let you decide by the end of this video. This is Chicago on the American map. As you can see, it only claims a tiny portion of the waterfront in the name of Lake Michigan. But despite that, Chicago has made good use of it, except for this point. This is where the mighty Michigan meets the Chicago River. It's known as 400 Lakeshore Drive. Given its prime location, everyone was eager to do something big with it. In 2005, this place was chosen to create the tallest building in Western Hemisphere, the Chicago Spire. But those plans were washed away with the global financial crisis of 2008. Ever since then, this spot has remained empty, and so has the infamous hole left behind the tower. Nearly a decade after this incident, a new project was proposed with not 1, but 2 buildings. The taller tower stands at 858 feet and is already under construction, while the shorter one is 765 feet. Both towers feature a tapering design and floor-to-ceiling glass exterior. The design team at SOM borrowed this style from the classic Chicago window. This is a distinctive style of window that became a hallmark in the late 19th and 20th century. Since then, huge buildings in Chicago, like the Wrigley, the Rookery, and others, started adopting this style. The project will add 4.5 acres of green space, including the long-awaited disabled park and the northern end of Chicago's Riverwalk. But that's not the best part. While the project is in fact a luxury development, 20% of the apartments will be affordable. There's also another detail about the towers that's missing from most projects. We know that Chicago is known as the Windy City. The design team wanted to make sure that both towers could resist strong winds. That's why both structures are tilted a few degrees to make them invisible to the wind. The first tower is expected to be complete by 2027 and will feature 72 stories, so the city's waterfront will have another tall neighbor besides the Willis Tower. For decades, the Willis Tower has retained the title of Chicago's tallest building. However, this next skyscraper is about to challenge it altogether. We are talking about the Tribune East Tower. This tower not only aims to be one of the tallest, but also wants to overshadow this historic building, the original Tribune Tower. So not only this new tower copies its name, but will also steal its limelight. And that's because it's nearly 3 times taller than the Tribune Tower. It will reach a length of 1,442 feet, just 8 feet less than the Willis Tower. So unfortunately, the East Tower has to settle for second place. After getting approved in 2020, the East Tower will feature 102 floors. Like most super tall structures, it also tapers towards the end to reduce wind loads. It's designed by Adrian Smith and includes a continuous glass wall with vertical gold fins. On the practical side, the East Tower will be a mixed-use space. It has a total area of 1.3 million square feet that will be utilized for a 200-key hotel and 500-plus residential units. Despite being a literal giant, Tribune East Tower will have a relatively small footprint. It's also strategically located in such a way that the historic Tribune Tower can be clearly seen from the Ogden Slip. As of December 2023, crews have begun clearing the site for construction. The project is expected to wrap by 2027, around the same time as the 400 Lakeshore Drive. It's refreshing to see Chicago take a new leap toward reimagining their city, especially after a turbulent past. In 1871, the Great Fire of Chicago destroyed 2,000 acres of the city. It destroyed 17,000 buildings, killed hundreds, and left several homeless. However, there was one spot that was spared the destruction. Fast forward to today, this very spot is being redeveloped as a $7 billion neighborhood. And no, it doesn't have a fancy name. The project is simply called the 78. The name refers to the existing 77 community areas in Chicago, and this neighborhood will be the 78th. It will have a new White Sox stadium, 12 acres of open space, and a new Red Line subway station. This area used to be a former rail yard, which was later abandoned in the late 70s. Since then, this 62-acre land was vacant and in desperate need of a makeover. What makes the area attractive is the half-mile river access, and the photos look stunning. The centerpiece of this development is a pair of interconnected skyscrapers called the Gateway Towers. The taller one reaches 755 feet, while the shorter one is restricted to 500 feet. Both are connected by a curved sky bridge near the base. The project will include up to 13 million square feet of new commercial, residential, and institutional construction. To make the project accessible, 20% units will be designated as affordable. The 78 will also include a $300 million research center called the Discovery Partners Institute. It will be operated by the University of Illinois. If a random research center is this beautiful, you can expect how the rest of the project would be. And getting to this place is super easy too. Major roads, expressways, and Amtrak services converge at this point. Since the 78 is also bonded by the Chicago River on one side, you can also catch a water taxi here in the future. The only bad news is that you have to wait till the end of this decade to see the finished project. But this next project doesn't require any wait time at all. It's already complete. We are referring to the recently completed 1000M. It's located at the south end of the Michigan Avenue Historic District. With a height of 788 feet, the tower can be seen from quite a distance. The building is sectioned into 73 floors with 700 plus rental units. Originally, 1000M was supposed to feature luxury condos, but this plan was changed to contain rentable apartments. You can either book a cozy studio apartment or a fancy 4-bedroom unit. Imagine waking up to views of Lake Michigan, Grant Park, and the iconic Chicago skyline. Sounds like a good investment. From the outside, the tower has a distinct base with large, darkly colored aluminum panels that are meant to reference the surrounding historic buildings. Unlike most skyscrapers, 1000M gets wider as we go up. The first 8 stories are extended far into the block and include community spaces and a pool. The topmost floor has an observation deck and 2 private dining rooms. This observation deck is the highest for any residential building in Chicago. So yeah, that's an excellent way to impress your friends. And like most luxury towers, there's a private health club too. This section includes spaces for basketball, boxing, yoga, spa, and even personal training rooms. Our personal favorite part is this cozy garden on the 10th floor. You can relax near the fire pits as your barbecue gets ready on the grill. The interiors is designed by Kara Mann, while the actual tower was finalized by the late Helmut John. He was one of the most influential figures in Chicago who dramatically changed the face of the city. His creations like the Thompson Center, Citigroup Center, and the United Terminal at O'Hare International Airport have become the face of Chicago. Unfortunately, he died in 2021 in a road accident, making 1000M his last project. However, the project continues to carry his legacy. John sought inspiration from the tower's surroundings. There's a sudden change of shape from the 19th floor onwards. That's because the lower part is a reference to the historic Michigan Avenue district, while the upper part complements the surrounding skyscrapers. One of the skyscrapers in its competition is the Salesforce Tower. Unlike 1000M, this tower is fully dedicated to office space, serving as the regional headquarters of software company Salesforce. Now, working in software must be a stressful task, but the views of the surrounding totally make up for it. The Salesforce Tower is located at Wolf Point, a point where the 3 branches of the Chicago River meet. The area shown in this map is historically owned by the Kennedy family. Designed by Pelly Clark and Partners, the building contains 1.2 million square feet of trophy space. The exterior features a step design that makes for an elegant silhouette. The curtain walls combine glass and metal to balance a feeling of solidity and transparency. To preserve the area's appearance and also conserve space, there's a 4-level underground parking. This is a sort of project that reminds you of New York. After all, NYC is jam-packed with super tall, shiny towers, even when it doesn't need them. That's one of the reasons why people have started calling it a concrete jungle. Let's hope Chicago strikes a balance between progress and preserving nature. Because ultimately, every new building puts a strain on the city. whether that be on the city's water, gas, electricity, or most importantly, the local transport. Now that we are seeing more and more projects in Chicago, the city requires a strong transport network, and that's one of the proposals for this next project. The plan is to create a $20 billion transit hub in Chicago. This will be built on a 32-acre site above the Metro rail yards near Soldier Field. The complex will feature 9 towers, retail spaces, parkland, and a transit hub. The project is officially known as One Central. It's going to be Chicago's only multimodal transit hub that provides transit access for South and West Side neighborhoods. However, it's going to be more than just a transit hub. It's a whole neighborhood. There are plans to have 9,000 homes, mostly in the form of high-rises. And who is the mastermind behind this idea? It's Landmark Development President Bob Dunn. According to his proposal, the state would reimburse him $6.5 billion for building the transit center and take over ownership of the facility after 20 years. To back his plan, he's providing some really strong numbers. It's expected that One Central will create $32 billion in revenue and 78,000 new jobs. Moreover, Southside residents would gain access to jobs within a reasonable 30-45-minute commute. Phase 1 will begin with covering the rail yard. The second phase will focus on building the 9 towers along with various other amenities. Since Phase 2 is pretty laborious, you can expect its completion anywhere from 2030 to 2040, but at least the wait would be worth it. Let's go back to our initial question. Can Chicago overtake NYC in terms of skyscrapers? While Chicago is the birthplace of modern skyscrapers, it still has a long way to go. New York's skyline is denser and more massive due to the city's higher population and economic concentration. Manhattan alone dwarfs downtown Chicago in terms of sheer skyscraper volume. On the other hand, Chicago has a more spread out and organized skyline, complemented by Lake Michigan, giving it a visual appeal. And that's what makes it unique. Chicago doesn't have to be a cluster of skyscrapers like New York and destroy its very identity. Chicago needs to be only one thing, Chicago. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we will catch up in the next video.